Have you ever felt like your prayers were hitting the ceiling and bouncing back, like they weren't getting anywhere close to God's throne? You felt alone, you felt completely overwhelmed in this spiritual battle. Who has your back out there on that battlefield so the enemy doesn't take you out? Today, we're going to talk about how to build that type of fortress. Now, earlier in this devotional, we talked about the power of covenant and prayer partners and coming into agreement together. And a couple days ago, I mentioned how one of my prayer partners inspired me to shift my prayers to ones of gratitude instead of being filled with despair. Now, I want to paint this picture for you because when I was in this valley of despair and my prayer partner called out of the blue, like we normally have certain days that we call each other. He calls me in that moment. And to be real, I didn't want to answer the phone. I looked at it and I was like, nah, I ain't talking to him. And Holy Spirit kept nudging me. You know, you need to answer that phone. I didn't want to talk to anybody, but there is value in being obedient. So I answered the phone. I pour out everything to my friend and he lets me vent. And then he says gently, I want you to stop and name 5 things that you were grateful for. And I'm like, I ain't trying to hear that. Now, understand, this is probably something that I would do to him if he called me feeling like that. But in this moment, I wanted somebody to validate how I was feeling. I wanted somebody to feel sorry for me. Like whatever emotion I had, I wanted to stay there. I did not want to think about anything to be grateful for, but he gently pushed and I stopped and I began through clenched teeth. I started naming some blessings that I had, that I was aware of, even blessings that I wasn't seeing God do yet. I was calling them out. And with each one, I started to feel a little bit of that pain and despair and bitterness go away. And he began to affirm and exhort me. And by the end of that call, not only did the fog lift, I had a tactic that I've been using ever since in terms of how I frame my prayers. This is a power of accountability, but more importantly, this is spiritual partnership. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 12 says, though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. So you can have all of the Bible promises. You can have all of the cliches that we as people of faith kind of throw around. Oh, it's God's will. Oh, just give it to Jesus. The teacher is always silent during the test. All things work together for good for those who love God. But when we are the ones on the other side of that trial, we need somebody else to bear our burdens and fulfill the law of Christ, as Galatians 6:2 says. This is what spiritual partnerships do. From a young age, I've always been fascinated by videos of animals in nature and predators chasing prey. The predators always go after the weakest. They're always trying to rustle up the herd such that there is a stampede, and in the confusion, one of them peels off from the pack. Because if the pack can stay together, first of all, if the pack attacked back, the predator would just back off, right? And you do see that sometimes with certain breeds. But with other animals, they're just running. But if they can stay together, the predator has no way of getting through. Even if the predator is faster, they have to find a way to isolate. This is what Satan does. When we are in spiritual partnership, spiritual community, we see each other's blind spots. The only way that he's going to get through is if he can isolate us or we isolate ourselves. And as he takes each one of us out, it hurts the entire battlefield because that's one less person who can support someone else in battle. In Exodus 17, Aaron and Hur lifted up Moses' hands when they were fighting the Amalekites. And when his hands were up, Israel was winning, and when his hands were down, Israel was losing. And his hands get tired. His spiritual partners propped him up and held each of his hands up until the battle was won. That's why Christ, when he sent out his disciples to cast out devils and to perform miracles and to preach the gospel, he sent them out 2 by 2. So I would encourage you, if you don't have a prayer partner, if you don't have a spiritual partnership, to first pray for discernment, because it does require some vulnerability. Your spiritual partner is going to know some things about you. It's not going to be judgmental. It's not going to use those against you. And that's why you just can't be transparent with everyone. And if the person that God leads you to, you have never had that type of exchange, maybe at first it's a one-sided affair and you ask them, hey, what can I lift up for you in prayer? And eventually, by God's grace, they will reciprocate. If you're ready to build some spiritual partnerships and not allow that roaring lion to pick any of us off, just drop the word fortress in the comments. Make sure you head over to bendingbowsofbronze.com and start this 31-day journey, either in paperback or in audiobook format. Tomorrow we will see this in action with two brothers on the battlefield who form a spiritual partnership and rout the enemy. See you then.